This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.
Welcome to Holocron Histories, Star Wars Canon versus Legends, where we're going to take a deep dive into the lore of the Star Wars universe.
Hello, and welcome to the Holocron Histories podcast. I'm Teacup, also known as Austin.
And I am Ben of Temeria.
All right. Well, Ben, what do we have for today?
So for today, just like how last week we discussed, we went over the Jedi Order, this week we are going over the Sith. So the other main faction in the Star Wars universe that we see.
Yes.
So with the Sith, so starting off in Legends, there is a pretty big difference that we see from the Sith we see in Legends, and then we go into the canon. So in the Legends, the Sith was actually an ancient species that was on and developed on the planet Korriban, which, if you know from Star Wars history, Korriban was typically known as the birthplace of the Sith as a species, or even as a culture for the dark side. So the species was extremely powerful in the dark side of the Force. Over thousands of years, their culture developed. They built an empire to where what we see in Legends as the Sith Empire at one point. Later in the species of the Sith, in their history, there was a powerful Sith king, Adus, who ruled for centuries until the Rakata invasion on Korriban. So, as I said back in our first episode, how the Rakata were the creators of the quote-unquote proto-saber in Legends. They invaded Korriban to overtake this Sith species, since they were both Force-sensitive species, to be the dominant race. And then with the Sith themselves, the Sith species, they have a long lifespan, coursing over a couple hundred years. Now we do see in Legends there is a Jedi you can meet, or not Jedi, but a Sith you can meet named Lord Scourge, who he's lived way over, I don't even remember how many years. I think over 500 years or something like that, from the Star Wars Revan book. And then you see him in Star Wars Old Republic. Right. With the invasion of Korriban from the Rakata, this is where King Adus actually learned how to create holocrons from the Rakata and how they were able to use space travel. So holocrons were actually developed up by the Rakata, and then the Sith species took that over, and that's kind of how the first holocrons were developed. So, and then the Jedi eventually adopt the holocrons in their own manner, in their own style, compared to the Sith. And then that's also how the Sith Empire grew, as well as a culture, is through the space travel thanks to the Rakata. But then, yeah, so
the Rakata are still, they're still canon.
I think they're still canon.
It's interesting because, their big thing is in KOTOR with the Starforge, and so
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how that changes and what they do with that.
Yeah, they were the creators of the Starforge. They were a dominant empire in the galaxy way before anything else, in which we get a lot of that story in KOTOR 1. And then we do get some remnant stories of the Rakata in Star Wars The Old Republic MMO as well. But then eventually the Sith species actually after driving the Rakata from Korriban, after a long conflicts, the Sith hijacked some of their ships and spread the Sith species to Zayest, Tund, and Malachor 5. So by taking over some of the Rakata ships, the Sith species then moved from Korriban across the galaxy. That way they can grow more of a species. And after they drove off the Rakata, King Adus lost his life. So their one beloved king that ruled for centuries eventually perished. And then as we were talking about how the Rakata is a major influence in KOTOR 1, same as the Sith, the Rakata actually left a star map on Korriban and possibly the origin of the title of Darth while on Korriban. So in KOTOR 1, your whole goal is to gather all these map pieces from these star forges or star maps on different planets to go find the star forge. So you can see what Revan and Malak were doing before the conflict that you have in KOTOR 1.
Right. Which, if you haven't played KOTOR, it's a great game.
It's such a great game. And then eventually also, after all that has gone through with the star map on Korriban, possible origins of the title of the Darth, exiled Jedi actually found Korriban and were greeted by the Sith race. So just like in our second episode and our last episode, how there was like the dark Jedi that splintered off from the Jedi Order themselves, they eventually found Korriban and interacted with the Sith species, and that's where the dark Jedi eventually became what we know as the Sith. So the exiled Jedi then eventually formed an alliance with the Sith rulers, second in command to overthrow the Sith king and claim dominant dominion over the Sith. So the dark Jedi that eventually become the Sith basically became the dominant. They're mostly human. They literally dominate the Sith race to where the human population is the dominant species on Korriban, to where the Sith still had a high regard and status, but not as high regard as what all the humans were. And then the Sith and the Jedi do have countless wars over the centuries. Eventually, the Sith do create a Sith Academy on Korriban. You see it in KOTOR 1, where you can visit it and you actually do some missions on Korriban. That's how you have to go get the starter map, is to become a quote-unquote Sith. And then when you play Star Wars the Old Republic MMO, your Sith Warrior and Sith Inquisitor characters actually start on Korriban as your starting planet that you go to, and there's a Sith Academy on those as well. But then such conflicts would be the Great Hyperspace War, the conflict on Onderon, which we see in Star Wars the Old Republic, the Great Sith War, the Krath Holy Crusade, and the Jedi Civil War. And then there's always countless conflicts over the centuries with the Jedi and the Sith, since they are always mortal enemies between the two.
Right.
And then after 300 years after the Jedi Civil War, the Sith, thought to be gone, came back stronger and attacked the Republic, which is the Old Republic. And that's what started the events of Star Wars Old Republic. All the Jedi thought they were gone. They come back in full force with their numbers in the thousands and attack the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and that is one of the sackings of Coruscant Temple, and that's why the Jedi eventually move their base of operations to their original planet on Tython.
Right.
And then with the new Sith Empire coming out of extinction, basically. The leader is controlled by someone named the Emperor. So if you ever play Star Wars Old Republic, you get this, and you even read in some of the Legends books, you get mentions of the Emperor. The Emperor, like, who is the Emperor? Well, in Old Republic, spoilers if you haven't played it, the game's 10 years old now. The Emperor goes by the name of Darth Vitiate, or he also goes by Valkorion, who is basically an immortal being who was human, becomes immortal through the dark side power of the Force, and basically can eradicate an entire planet just to feed his hunger. Just like how, if you play KOTOR 2, there's Darth Nihilus, who can feed off the life force of anybody in the surroundings to sustain himself.
Right.
So that is what I have in the Legends of the Sith. Is there anything you want to add, Austin?
There's not a lot. I haven't really delved that much into the Sith from the Legends material. I do know that there are several books on different offshoots of the Sith. I think that one big point about Legends that kind of gets confusing a little bit is that the Sith is both a race and a belief system. And so you could be a Sith, like a racially, like, and biologically a Sith, like Lord Scourge is, like, there are other dark side Jedi, or darks, like pure blood Siths, or what they're called. And or you can be a Sith that's like following the Sith Order and the belief and what comes out of that. Just because you're a dark side user doesn't mean that you are a Sith.
Yes, yeah. You have to go through, extensive training to be dubbed a Sith, compared to someone just being a dark side user. We see this in canon, just like in canon, we have the Inquisitors, who, yes, they use the dark side of the Force. Yes, they're dark side users, but they're not given the title of Sith because they don't get that extensive training to become a full-fledged Sith.
Right.
But in canon, there's other reasons why that is in canon, which we'll go here in a couple minutes here. But yeah, in canon, in Legends, it's both a belief system and a race. Just like I was actually listening to one of your guys's Dragon Age lore cast episodes about the Canary, and talking about the Canary, where it's the same thing. It's a race and a belief system.
Yes. Yes. I think Shelby will probably correct me when I say this, but I think that there is an actual name for like the Qunari race, but I don't think we actually know it. But it's something that like they refer to them. It's Kossith.
Oh, okay.
I just remembered.
But yeah, that's what we get in Legends. It's a lot of fun stuff, and it's going to be, it's interesting to see the differences in what we might get in the future of Star Wars if they bring back the Sith race. It'd be very interesting.
Yes.
So you want to go ahead and take our mid break?
Yeah, let's go ahead and go to that.
All right.
Do you love Dragon Age? Have you always wanted to learn more about its vast world and detailed lore? Are you still attached to your hero of Ferelden, even a decade after Dragon Age Origins came out? Or maybe you're a newer fan, still discovering a new tidbit or quest every day.
Well, either way, the Dragon Age Lorecast is the podcast for you. I'm Austin, also known as Teacup.
And I'm Shelby, also known as Shecup.
And come and join us as we embark on a journey to explore and discover all things Dragon Age.
We'll discuss all kinds of topics, from Lyrium to the Chantry and the great mysteries of the old gods, and even more that even you BioWare superfans might not know about.
So come and listen on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. And always remember,
Swooking is bad.
all right, well, welcome to the middle of the show where we talk about all things that don't have to do with the lore of Star Wars regarding the podcast. And so we just want to take this time to those of you who have left us reviews, thank you. They help a lot. And if you like our show, if you like to support us, you like what we do, what we say, there are two great ways to support us. The first is to tell other people about the podcast. If you have friends who are big Star Wars nerds, and you really love our podcast, just say, hey, you should listen to this podcast. Or if you have a Spotify account or an Apple account, you can go there and leave us a review. And that really helps boost the show and get people more to discover the show. And when they see us rated well, they're like, oh, okay, this is a show of quality when they see that. You don't have to listen on Spotify or Apple to leave us a review. You just need an account. And if you leave us a 5-star review with some words on Apple, we will read it on a future episode of the show.
Yes, we will.
And that's all I have. Do you have anything to add?
I mean, you can also follow us on Twitter at SW Hollow
Right.
Histories. So you can always do that and support the show that way. Tell your friend, you can, like Austin was saying, best way is to word of mouth. So on Twitter, you can just retweet or just let everybody know who follows you to check out our podcast.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's get back into it.
All right.
How well do you know your video game lovers? Do you want to know more about your favorite relationship options?
Have you ever wondered how your video game bays stack up against all the rest of the delectable digital dates?
I'm Genesis, a Mass Effect nerd and commander of the SS Innuendo. And on Two Girls, One Ship, we analyze, rate, and review all that the world of video game romances has to offer.
And I'm Vervada, the hopeless romantic cat lady, character design fangirl, and lifelong gamer. Come check out our podcast, Two Girls, One Ship, on all your favorite podcast places. And remember,
beauty is in the eye of the controller.
All right, good. So we've talked about the legends. So let's dive into what has actually been said about the Sith in canon.
So yeah, we get a little bit more, goes more into the modern stuff that we see in Star Wars currently. So as far as the origins of the Sith in canon, the origins is the Sith were just an ancient order of Force wielders devoted to the dark side of the Force. We don't have like what we see in Legends where there was a Sith race who were already attuned to the dark side compared to what we have in canon. It's more of just the belief of the system, where they just call themselves Sith. Now, I will say we'll probably get a little bit more context here with the High Republic stuff that's coming out. I know Disney, I believe, they did announce they have a show called Star Wars Acolyte in the works, which is supposed to be more of the dark side of the Force and probably go a bit more in the origins of the Sith in that show. But we still don't know too much about the show as of yet.
Right.
But 1,000 years before the Clone Wars, rogue Jedi left the Order to relocate on Korriban in the Outer Rim, and then they became the Sith Order. So that is the same, just like in Legends, where there was Jedi who did not believe the Jedi Order. They splintered off to want to become their own things, and then pursued the dark side of the Force when they landed on Korriban. And then later towards the end of the Old Republic era, with all the infighting in the Sith Order, Darth Bane, who created the rule of two, states that there will only be two Sith at a time. So in Legends, we get this in Legends too. Like Sith, it's just in their nature to go after one another, to further their goals, to further their power. That's how a lot of Darths gain their power and become Darths. They were eventually once apprentices, killed their masters, and basically took their titles.
Right.
And with all this infighting, it was basically making the Sith practically destroying themselves and making themselves go extinct. And with Darth Bane, when he saw all this, with his leadership and his status in the Sith Order, created the rule too, to where there should be only 2 Sith prominent at a time. And the Sith that remained, all the way up when we get to like episode 1, we had Darth Sidious, Darth Maul. They were in hiding before episode 1 of Phantom Menace, and then the Phantom Menace being, Darth Maul.
Right.
The Sith are devoted to the dark side of the Force, and they do have a Sith code. So just like the Jedi, they do have a code that they follow. And that Sith code states, peace is a lie, there is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. So with the Sith code, compared to the Jedi say they don't let emotions rule you. With the Sith, it's complete opposite. They use their emotions to fuel their power, their fighting, and to basically get to where they want to be. We see this in Anakin at the end of Revenge of the Sith, where Dark Sidious turns Anakin to the dark side. Anakin, his whole point on joining Sidious is to save Palpatine, or to save Padme from dying, and he was hoping the dark side of the Force would allow him to do that. Well, we all know that doesn't happen, but using that power, using that his emotions, he gained great power. But I believe we said this in the last episode, the dark side does have its side effects, to where it does drain you of your life force. It does drain you of your vitality. We see this in Darth Sidious, where the more he uses his Force lightning, the decrepit he becomes, basically.
Right. I think with me, it's so interesting because you have like this code, like passion, I gain strength, which is like in such opposition with the Jedi code of like there is no emotion, there is peace. But at the same way, like the Jedi and the Sith are all about control of your emotions still, because they know that like a Sith isn't out of control in their rage or passion. It's always directed. It's always like they're under control. They're in power of their rage and their passion and their anger. In fact, a lot of the ways like the Sith goad their opponents is to make them irrationally angry. And I think that like that's one of the reasons that Obi-Wan eventually triumphs over Anakin, because Obi-Wan is so determined in his purpose. And even though he is so emotional and he's so distraught in his battle with Anakin, he's not losing control. Whereas Anakin is not in control of his emotions. And so eventually Obi-Wan is able to think clearly and best Anakin because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a thing where they're kind of like two sides of the same coin. They both seek to master a control of their emotion, where the only difference really is the Jedi reject emotion for a sense and like calming of the mind, whereas the Sith embrace it and assert power over it, over their emotion.
Yeah, no, I mean, we also see a lot in Clone Wars with that aspect too. I mean, in Clone Wars, we do see Anakin towards the later seasons, like seasons 5 through 7, really get control, his emotions controlling him, and instead of him controlling his emotions. But we also see it in Maul. Like Maul, his emotion, he is he uses his emotion for his strength, but when it comes to Kenobi, when it comes to Obi-Wan, he loses all sense of reason. And that's why I think Obi-Wan, I mean, honestly, bests Maul majority of the time, is because Maul just becomes irrational with everything when he sees Obi-Wan.
Right. He really does. I mean, it's just he can't really control it, and that's what ultimately is his like downfall, and why he's able to be bested by, you know, even Ahsoka is able to hold her own when she's talented in her own right, but Anakin is so conflicted about what to do about Ahsoka that he can't harness the power like he should.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that, I think that's part of where it gets with that. And it's a good point of understanding the difference between the Jedi and the Sith.
Mm-hmm. So back with the rule of two, the rule of two does ensure the relationship between the master and apprentice was not of trust, but of to find a sign of weakness in one over another. So, like how I was saying earlier, how most Darths become Darths because they strike down their own master, is because they don't trust their master. They don't trust whoever they're following, or vice versa, because it's the whole code is to gain power. So it's not of trust like the Jedi are.
Right.
And we see this in I'm trying to think. I mean, we do see it in like Return of the Jedi, really, but that was more of Anakin / Vader fulfilling his destiny finally and taking down the Emperor.
Right.
We don't really see a whole lot of it in the canon with the Master and the Apprentice. I mean, we kind of get it maybe in Clone Wars when it comes to Maul and Savage Opress. Savage does try to take out Maul multiple times, but that's only because Maul tells him to.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the only thing we know, so the Sith race is in canon, but we don't know much about them. So the Sith share the same name with a red-skinned species. That's it. There is nothing else in the Star Wars canon that we know of the Sith species, besides they existed at some point of time.
Right.
And then eventually the Sith homeworld Korriban was renamed Moraband. And then the ancient Sith did build the Valley of Sith Lords on Moraband to tomb ancient Sith Lords. So just like we see this kind of in, I'm trying to think, in the canon of Star Wars. We don't really see Moraband I don't think we see Moraband actually in the canon, and even in Clone Wars.
Right. No. Yeah, we do.
Do we?
Clone Wars, the Yoda Chronicles.
Oh, that's right. He does go to Moraband in the Clone. Okay, that's right, because we see the scene with Darth Bane's spirit, because Yoda goes through one of the tombs, right?
Yes. It's like a test of, I think, what's going on. And if you don't want spoilers for the Clone Wars, you can skip ahead a couple minutes. But what's going on is Dooku and Palpatine are basically attempting to put Yoda through like a vision trial that like tests and tries to turn him to the dark side. And he does that by trying to like go to Morabon and figure that out. It's also part of his quest to figure out and learn about becoming a Force ghost.
Okay, gotcha. I completely forgot. It's been a while since I watched the Yoda Chronicles part of the Clone Wars.
Yes.
And then the Sith also built a tomb on Malachor, in the center of of the temple. Sorry, they built a temple, not a tomb. They built a temple on Malachor, and at the center of the temple, there was actually a super weapon powered by a giant kyber crystal. And we do see this in Star Wars Rebels at the end of season 2. In season 2, because Maul gets reintroduced into the series with that. And also we get the first ever glimpse of a crossguard and just the planet of Malachor in general, which if you're having a Legends, Malachor has a very strong tie to the dark side.
Yes.
Well, Malachor 5 does. And then we do know the Sith Empire and Jedi Knights fought on Malachor, but the super weapon was activated and it petrified the entire planet. So that's why when you do see those episodes in Clone Wars where everything is basically dead, it's because that super weapon was activated and basically killed the planet.
Yes. And it's so interesting how, like, the way these tie over, because the way the Sith Temple operates on Malachor very much looks like the same way the Sith Temple operates on Exegol, too.
Oh, that is true. That's right.
Yeah. And
Rebels was created, years before Rise of Skywalker came out, too.
Yes. Especially that Malachor episode is in season 2.
Yeah, that's true. God, that was 2014, 2015, I think is when Rebels.
Yeah, somewhere around that. It was one of the first things Disney did.
Yeah, it was Rebels was one of the first things they did.
Yeah, the first season came out before even Force Awakens did.
Oh, it did. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
And then another conflict that the Jedi and Sith fought was on Takodana. Later, Maz Katana built her castle on top of the legendary battlefield, which I did go over a little bit on last week's episode, where Takodana actually had a significant place in the universe before Force Awakens even happens. But we don't know too much about the battle, only knowing that the Jedi and Sith had a major conflict there. And the reason why Maz built her castle on top of it is because she wanted to honor the Force wielders who fought in that battle. Which I believe, if you take a look at all the flags in front of her castle, I believe there is a Jedi Order flag somewhere in there. There's like 100 flags in that one scene.
How old is Maz? Do we know?
Oh God, I don't know if actually I can look that up real fast. Let's see. She was, oh my God. Maz Katana was born in 973 BBY.
She's older.
She's older than Yoda. Oh my gosh, she was a Force sensitive as well. That's why what we get in Force Awakens, why she talks to Rey like she did, is because she knows of the Force. She knows of it and what it entails. But yeah, that's interesting. I did not know she was older than Yoda.
Right. And so, like, if we think about timeline a little bit, like Darth Bane, he does his whole thing around 1000 BBY, at least in the old Legends books. So Maz has seen, she was born right at like the Republic entering its like golden years.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Especially, I'm curious if she knew Yoda since she's lived that long. And then funny enough, I'm actually reading through the Star Wars High Republic Out of Shadows book right now. I'm like halfway through the book, and Master Yaddle is in the book. Of all the masters we get in the Star Wars universe, Master Yaddle, who first appeared only in one scene of episode 1, has a tie-in into the High Republic books.
Yeah, there's a dialogue in Fallen Order about Yaddle. So the pilot Grease and Seer Junda, they're having a conversation, and Grease, the pilot, is basically describing a Jedi that looks exactly like Yoda, and Seer is like, "Oh yeah, Master Yoda was very well respected," and Grease is basically like, "Master Yoda? Nah, I'm talking about Master Yaddle. She was awesome."
That's awesome. And then other than that, we get the Sith infiltrated the Galactic Republic, which we do see in the prequel movies through episodes 1 and 3, and led to the Republic's downfall. And the Republic eventually, became the Empire ruled by Sith.
Yeah. And like there's also legend books on that time. If you're really curious about Palpatine and you just want, even though it's not canon, I do think these books give a lot of insight into Palpatine's character. And just inside the Darth Plagueis books.
Mhm. But the Plagueis books are pretty good, or really good.
Mm-hmm.
You get a good character development with Palpatine in those books that we don't really see in the films, or really in the show. It shows his time as an apprentice, and you see a good fair amount of what he's doing and why he's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you get his whole thing of immortality and all that, because his master, that was his whole entire master's obsession too.
Okay. Which goes back to Darth Bane. Darth Bane is really the one that kind of starts this obsession with immortality.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with, like, I don't want to spoil too much, but it has to do with like the legacy of the Sith. And so Bane pursues immortality basically because he doesn't think he'll find an apprentice worthy enough to succeed him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's trying to live forever until he finds one. And you'll have to read the books to find out if it works or not.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's all I really got for this week.
Yeah.
I will say, like, next week, since it is the week of May the 4th, we are going to be doing a special episode where we are going to go into Obi-Wan's history in the Legends, specifically Legends. So everybody can see all the major differences are changing when the Obi-Wan show drops at the end of the month.
Yeah. Which is exciting.
I'm so excited for that show.
I'm probably going to go watch the trailer again after this just to get hyped again.
And we get the first 2 episodes. So we get a quarter of the series. Yeah, we get the first 2 episodes on Friday, May 27th. It was originally that Wednesday, but they did delay it for 2 days because Star Wars Celebration is that weekend. So we're going to get a bunch of Star Wars. Not only do we get Obi-Wan Kenobi as this TV series, and we get the first 2 episodes, which are both hour-long episodes. Every episode is an hour, they did say.
Oh.
So
well, that's new.
Yeah. That's going to be awesome. And then not only do we get that, but in that entire weekend, we're going to be getting Star Wars news galore all weekend long. So it's going to be a good time.
Is that Celebration weekend?
Yes.
No. Oh, it is. Yeah.
Yes, Celebration weekend.
Are you going to Celebration?
No, God, I wish. It's in Anaheim.
I know. It's too far.
It's too far for me. I'm not going to. And it's I would have had to book plane tickets like 6 months ago if I needed it, if I was going to go. Now, if it's in Chicago again, I would definitely go to Chicago.
Yeah, we would probably do that. I lived in Chicago for a little bit, so it would not be undoable to get over there. But yeah, all right. Well, that's all we've got. Thank you for listening.
And may the Force be with you. Thank you for listening to Holocron Histories, Star Wars Canon versus Legends. You can find us on the Robots Radio Discord at robotsradio.net. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWHoloHistories and contact us at holocronhistories@gmail.com.